Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well informed. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the vibrant, complex, and let's face it, ever evolving landscape of India. We're looking at a carefully curated stack of today's top headlines, specifically from June 27th, 2025. Our mission, as always, is to go beyond the surface. We're not just reporting what happened, but really digging into why it matters, identifying those critical nuggets of knowledge, and connecting the dots to give you a clearer, more nuanced understanding of the forces shaping one of the world's most significant nations. Think of us as your expert guides, navigating the currents of power, policy, and public trust in India.
Exactly. And that emphasis on why it matters is, well, it's precisely where the true insights lie, isn't it? These aren't just isolated daily news stories. They serve as critical reflections of much deeper currents at play within Indian society, its intricate political landscape, and its rapidly evolving economy. For this deep dive, we've pulled sources that cover a truly diverse range of issues. I mean, everything from the global stage of competitive sports and large-scale entertainment ventures, right through to pressing national security concerns and pivotal education policy decisions. Our aim is to help you grasp not only the immediate impact of these significant developments, but crucially, their broader long-term implications for India's future trajectory. It's about discerning those subtle shifts, the ones that might foreshadow larger transformations down the line.
Absolutely. And speaking of transformations and significant shifts, let's kick off with a story that might initially seem like pure sports news, but it's actually a fascinating microcosm of global power dynamics and economic competition. I'm talking about the audacious plan by Saudi Arabia to launch a globally prominent 2020 or T20 cricket league, and the formidable, maybe even unexpected, resistance it's facing. This isn't just about cricket. It's a critical component of Saudi Arabia's ambitious Vision 2030 agenda, which is all centered on diversifying their economy away from oil dependence through massive investments, especially in sports and entertainment.
Indeed. And what Saudi Arabia was proposing here was far from a small regional venture. Let's be clear on that. It was an extremely well-funded and strategically conceived initiative. The proposed league was backed by SRJ Sports Investments. That's a new entity set up by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. And they came in with a staggering commitment of, reportedly, $500 million in initial investment. Just to start, the model itself was exceptionally innovative and, frankly, quite aggressive. The idea was for it to run year-round, which is almost unheard of in cricket. It would feature 8 teams competing across 4 different venues, and it was designed to include both men's and women's competition, sort of drawing inspiration from the continuous high-stakes excitement you see in tennis's Grand Slam format. Their publicly stated goal was to dramatically expand cricket's global reach beyond its traditional heartlands, India, England, Australia, Pakistan, and to introduce the sport in new global audiences while also trying to foster new talent pools in non-traditional cricketing nations. They genuinely aimed to shake up the sport's established calendar.
So, a really bold vision then, backed by immense capital. But the traditional cricketing powerhouses, specifically the Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, and the England and Wales Cricket Board, ECB, they appear to have drawn a very hard line. It seems like they've mounted a really strong, unified opposition to this Saudi venture. How did they actually actively resist this? And maybe more importantly, what were their core motivations for doing so? Why push back so hard?
Well, their resistance was immediate, highly coordinated, and, frankly, highly effective. They jointly declined to provide any support for this Saudi league. Now, this manifested most crucially in their flat-out refusal to issue no objection certificates or NOCs for their players.
Yeah, the NOCs, that's key.
Absolutely. For any player under contract with their respective boards, an NOC is an absolute prerequisite to participate in any league not sanctioned by the ICC or their home board. Without it, top players from India and England simply cannot join. Full stop.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the BCCI and ECB actively leveraged their significant influence by lobbying the International Cricket Council, the ICC, cricket's global governing body, to deny the Saudi League official recognition. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, their primary motive here is, let's be blunt, unequivocally about protecting their own incredibly lucrative and deeply entrenched domestic leagues.
Right, the money.
It always comes back to the money. We're talking about structures like the Indian Premier League, IPL,
Yep.
which isn't just a sporting event, it's a massive economic entity, valued at a staggering $12 billion.
12 billion.
Yes. And England's own 100 competition, which has successfully attracted $700 million in private investment. These are huge businesses. So the core fear for both the BCCI and the ECB is straightforward and deeply economic. They worry that Saudi Arabia's proposed league, with its seemingly limitless deep pockets, could easily lure away their most valuable assets.
Their star players.
Exactly, the top players, with significantly higher salaries. This would directly undermine their existing highly profitable and well-established cricketing structures, potentially siphoning off not just the elite talent, but crucially their massive viewership and advertising revenues too.
That makes profound financial sense. It's a clear move to defend their turf and their massive investments. But this isn't a unified global stance against it, is it? Were there mixed reactions from other cricketing nations, or was it just India and England drawing the line? And here's where it gets really interesting. Saudi Aramco, the giant Saudi national oil company, already has significant commercial ties with the ICC. They're a major sponsor. Why isn't that commercial leverage translating into support for this ambitious Saudi cricket initiative? You'd think that would count for something.
It certainly wasn't a unified global front.
Ugh.
No. We saw quite varied responses, which really highlights the diverse economic and strategic interests within the cricketing world. Cricket Australia, for instance, expressed a surprising openness to collaboration with the Saudi initiative. Maybe they saw an opportunity rather than a threat. And, Cricket South Africa has already successfully capitalized on Indian investment in its own SA20 league, which demonstrates that some boards are quite willing to integrate external capital, provided it aligns with, or maybe enhances, their existing ecosystem. However, despite those significant commercial ties you mentioned between Saudi Aramco and the ICC, and yes, Aramco is a major global sponsor, they absolutely do not appear to translate into support for the Saudi Cricket League.
So money talks, but not always in the way you expect.
Precisely. It clearly indicates that while sponsorship deals are one thing, control over the sport's fundamental structure, its calendar, and critically player movement, that's an entirely different battleground. And the significant hurdle for Saudi Arabia's league prospects is further complicated by a structural reality. The current ICC chair, Jay Shah, also serves as the BCCI secretary.
Ah, the dual role.
Exactly. This dual role means his interests are, well, inextricably aligned with India's, making it incredibly difficult for any venture perceived as a direct threat to the dominance and profitability of the IPL to gain ICC endorsement or, full unqualified support.
So for you, the listener, what does this entire saga really mean for the future of global cricket? What's the ultimate takeaway from this high-stakes battle?
The ultimate takeaway is this. Without access to the absolute top-tier Indian and English cricketing talent, which, let's be honest, undeniably represents the most valuable and marketable player pool in the world, the Saudi League's future remains highly uncertain, possibly even untenable. This whole saga powerfully demonstrates the immense, almost unparalleled power wielded by traditional cricketing boards, particularly the BCCI. They can shape the global landscape of the sport and fiercely protect their established empires. It serves as a stark reminder that even immense financial resources from a nation with significant global economic clout can be stymied. They can be ultimately defeated when they directly challenge deep-seated, culturally significant, and financially entrenched power structures within a niche, yet globally popular sporting ecosystem. It's a fascinating case study in sort of soft power versus hard capital. Fascinating indeed. Okay, from the grand global ambitions of Saudi Arabia, let's pivot to something closer to home for Indian cricket, focusing on immediate performance concerns within the national team itself. Veteran fast bowler Mohammad Shami has delivered some sharp, very direct criticism of the Indian bowling unit following their recent test match against England. Can you set the scene for us? What was the specific match context that prompted these pointed remarks? Right. The context was quite a significant and frankly concerning setback for India. In the first test at Headingley, Leeds, England successfully chased down a formidable target of 371 runs. Now, this wasn't just any chase. It marked England's second highest successful chase in the entire history of Test cricket.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. It allowed them to win by 5 wickets and take a 1-0 lead in this series. What made it particularly galling for India was that they had set a very large, seemingly defensible total. Yet their bowlers just couldn't seal the deal. They appeared ineffective for large portions of England's second innings.
And what exactly were Shami's specific critiques? He's known for his straightforward, no-nonsense assessments. What did he pinpoint as the issues?
He was, as you said, very direct and unflinching. Shami expressed deep disappointment at what he perceived as a clear lack of discipline and, crucially, a general ineffectiveness among the Indian bowlers. He pointed out that, quite starkly, only Jasprit Bumrah truly performed at an international standard in that match, delivering a commendable 5-wicket haul in the first innings.
Just Bumrah carrying the load.
That was Shami's implication. He didn't mince words. He emphasized the critical need for other bowlers to step up significantly and actively collaborate with Bumrah. He stressed the importance of sharing planning strategies and offering consistent, intelligent on-field support. His core argument was that truly strengthening the bowling unit around Bumrah, ensuring he isn't left as a lone warrior, could fundamentally alter outcomes for India. And he highlighted a truly damning statistic. The rest of the Indian attack was largely ineffective in both innings, conceding runs at an alarming rate of over 4.5 per over.
Ouch. That's hemorrhaging runs in a test match.
Absolutely. This high run rate critically undermined their defense of what should have been a very large, highly defensible total. He also pointed out that wickets taken by Shardul Thakur and Prasidh Krishna in the second innings came far too late. They had minimal impact because England was already in an unassailable commanding position by then. His strategic advice was unambiguous. The team needed to stress the paramount importance of capitalizing with the new ball. That's when it offers the most assistance to fast bowlers. And crucially, tightening the run flow early in an innings to build sustained pressure and genuinely shift momentum in India's favor.
That sounds like a clear, almost painful strategic assessment from a seasoned veteran. What's Shami's current status, though, given he's making these comments but isn't actually in the playing squad right now? And what are the immediate implications for the team moving forward, especially with the next test looming?
Yeah, that's an important point. Shami is currently sidelined due to ongoing fitness issues, which is why he isn't part of the playing squad for this crucial series. In his place, the promising young left-arm pacer Arshdeep Singh has received a maiden test call-up, which is a significant moment for his career.
So a potential debut on the cards.
Possibly. The immediate spotlight now absolutely turns to whether Arshdeep will make his debut in the upcoming second test, particularly given there's still some potential uncertainty surrounding Jasprit Bumrah's full participation or perhaps his workload, which could further weaken an already critiqued attack. The team management faces a difficult decision regarding their bowling combination, no doubt about it.
So for you, the listener, what's the real takeaway here? What does Shami's very public critique signal about the state of affairs within the Indian cricket team right now?
Shami's remarks, coming from such an experienced and respected figure in Indian cricket, serve as a direct, unvarnished call to action. It's aimed squarely at India's bowling unit, demanding they significantly elevate their performance in this ongoing test series. It's more than just post-match commentary. It's a clear signal of the intense internal pressures and the incredibly high expectations that exist within Indian cricket, especially after a disappointing performance in a crucial test match against a strong opponent like England. For fans and analysts alike, it underscores a fundamental truth in test cricket, that even with a strong batting lineup capable of posting big totals, consistent and effective bowling is absolutely paramount for winning matches and series. And that a single brilliant performer like Bumrah cannot carry the entire burden indefinitely. It's just not sustainable. It's a wake-up call, really, that speaks to the need for collective discipline and much better strategic execution from the entire bowling attack.
Right. A wake-up call on the field. Now, let's transition from the intense competition on the cricket pitch to a truly critical issue impacting the very foundation of India's democracy and the concept of citizenship. I'm talking about the Election Commission of India's ECI decision to begin a special intensive revision or SIR of electoral rules. This seemingly administrative process has ignited a major political firestorm, particularly in key states like West Bengal and Bihar. Can you detail the specifics of this process? What exactly does it involve and why is it being undertaken now? Certainly. The Election Commission of India's Special Intensive Revision of Electoral Rolls is designed, on paper at least, as a meticulous and comprehensive process. It involves booth-level officers, or BLOs. These are typically local government employees conducting systematic door-to-door verification. And they're tasked with collecting specific documents from citizens to update and, theoretically, purify the voter lists. The ECI has initiated this process starting in Bihar, which is a state with a vast and diverse electorate. We're talking over 80 million voters. The stated intention behind the SIR is to ensure the electoral rolls are accurate, up-to-date, and free from errors, deletions, or duplicate entries, thereby, enhancing the integrity of the democratic process. That's the official line.
Okay, that sounds like a necessary, if perhaps mundane, administrative task for any democracy. Keep the list clean. So, what are the core concerns from critics? It sounds like there's a strong accusation that this isn't simply about updating lists, but something far more contentious is going on. That's precisely the central and most vocal argument from critics. Yes. They contend that the stringent documentation requirements, particularly the need for proof of birth dates and specific parental documents for individuals born between 1987 and 2004, they argue these requirements are inherently problematic and carry a significant risk of disenfranchising vulnerable populations.
Who specifically are they worried about?
Well, think about the practical realities. Migrant workers, who often move frequently for employment, might not have stable addresses or easily accessible old records. Rural residents, many of whom may not have formal birth certificates or comprehensive family documents, simply due to historical lack of access to formal registration systems. And especially women, whose documentation might be less complete, sometimes even non-existent, due to various socioeconomic and cultural factors. Now, Mamata Banerjee, the chief minister of West Bengal and a very prominent opposition figure, has taken an exceptionally strong and public stance on this.
What she said.
She has publicly likened the entire exercise to an attempt implementing the controversial National Register of Citizens, NRC, through the back door. She's even labeled the process outright as a scam. Strong word.
A scam, wow.
Yes. She's gone so far as to warn citizens to vigilantly monitor the process, urging them to ensure they aren't inadvertently left off the voter rolls. Furthermore, she has publicly questioned the timing and the true intention behind this revision, especially given that it's being conducted ahead of upcoming elections, accusing the process of explicitly favoring the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP.
So it's clearly not just a regional issue confined to West Bengal. It's drawing widespread opposition from across the political spectrum. What's the context in Bihar, where it actually started, and what are other major parties like the Congress and the left saying about this SIR process?
The opposition is indeed widespread and getting quite coordinated. In Bihar, for instance, opposition parties, including the Mahagathbandhan Alliance, have united in strong protest against the SIR. Their objections aren't solely political. They also highlight significant practical concerns. They argue that conducting such an extensive door-to-door revision during the monsoon season, which also happens to coincide with the crucial paddy sowing season, is highly impractical. It places an undue burden on citizens, particularly farmers who are busy in their fields.
Especially with 80 million voters. That's a massive undertaking.
Exactly. The logistics are incredibly challenging during these periods. The Indian National Congress, for its part, has rejected the SIR as, quote, an admission of failure by the ECI. They're sharply criticizing the Commission for abandoning earlier Aadhaar-based proposals for electoral reform, which they felt were potentially more efficient and perhaps less prone to exclusion. Even leftist leaders have aligned with this criticism, drawing direct parallels between the current process and the highly controversial and often criticized NRC process that took place in Assam. Remember, that led to significant disenfranchisement and hardship. They are demanding its immediate suspension.
What's truly fascinating here, and maybe concerning, is how quickly something as seemingly mundane and administrative as an electoral roll revision can ignite such a fierce nationwide political firestorm. It seems to reveal deeper fault lines.
It absolutely does. This controversy clearly highlights growing and, frankly, deep-seated tensions between opposition parties and the Election Commission of India itself. At its heart are profound concerns about potential voter exclusion and, perhaps more potently in India's hyper-political climate, accusations of political manipulation. These debates are dominating the political discourse ahead of Bihar's upcoming elections, and they raise an important, indeed fundamental question for any democratic state, particularly one as vast and diverse as India. How does an election commission balance the essential and legitimate need to update voter rolls with the fundamental imperative of ensuring universal suffrage? How do you prevent the disenfranchisement of your most vulnerable citizens? What this electoral roll revision truly exposes isn't just potential bureaucratic inefficiency, but the profound mistrust that can quickly erupt. When administrative processes, even those with ostensibly good intentions, brush against unresolved questions of citizenship, belonging, and historical marginalization. Especially in a diverse nation like India, given its colonial past, where identity documents were often scarce for the common person. It's a very delicate and often contentious balance that speaks to the very soul of a democratic identity.
That's a truly profound observation, and one that touches on the very foundation of democratic representation and identity. It's not just about lists. Let's shift gears now to another incredibly sensitive and historically charged topic in India: language and national identity. Union Home Minister Amit Shah recently made some significant remarks on Hindi, which, as you know, in India is almost always a flashpoint. What was his central message this time, and was it perhaps a departure from previous stances or reinforcement?
Well, Union Home Minister Amit Shah's central message, delivered during the Golden Jubilee celebration of the central government's official language department, was quite clearly an attempt to diffuse long-standing tensions. He emphasized, and this is the key phrase, that Hindi is not a rival, but a friend to all Indian languages.
Friend, not a rival. Okay.
Exactly. This was a direct attempt to address persistent concerns, especially from non-Hindi-speaking states, over the perceived imposition of Hindi, particularly through the center's widely debated three-language policy in education. That's often the battleground. Shah sought to clarify that there is absolutely no opposition from the government to any Indian language or even foreign languages. Instead, he urged all Indians to take immense pride in and actively use their own mother tongues, emphasizing the rich linguistic diversity of the nation. He passionately asserted that language represents far more than just a mere means of communication. He said it embodies national identity and indeed the very cultural soul of a people. And he reiterated that promoting Hindi, in the government's view, does not equate to diminishing other languages. He encouraged the enrichment of all Indian languages, particularly the official language, Hindi, but in a harmonious way.
His comments, though, come amidst a really heightened political debate, don't they? Especially from the southern states, which have historically been very protective of their linguistic heritage. What's the broader political context surrounding these remarks, and how have key opposition figures and states reacted to this friend, not rival framing?
Yes, the timing is crucial because they come amid a politically charged and deeply emotive debate about language policy. Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has been particularly vocal, sharply criticizing the language provisions within the National Education Policy, NEP 2020. He's referred to them in very strong terms as Hindi colonialism.
Hindi colonialism, that's a powerful phrase.
It is. And it evokes decades of contentious debates over cultural and linguistic imposition from the Hindi-speaking North on the linguistically distinct South, where Tamil, for example, has a classical heritage stretching back millennia. In Maharashtra, too, opposition leaders have objected to the state's ruling Mahayuti alliance, mandating Hindi as the third compulsory language under NEP. They're accusing it of attempting to Hindify the state, another term that carries significant historical and political weight. It implies a forced cultural assimilation that many view as an attack on regional identity and autonomy. Meanwhile, the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, has consistently defended the policy. They argue it's designed to promote national linguistic unity and facilitate communication across diverse regions, rather than impose a single language. So if you connect this to the bigger picture, this issue clearly underscores broader fundamental concerns about linguistic identity, regional autonomy, and the very fabric of national integration in India. With over 1,600 recognized languages and dialects, India's linguistic diversity is a source of immense pride, but also perennial political tension. It's a complex tapestry, as states and various political parties continue to debate the far-reaching implications of language policy for both education and governance. Shah's remarks are strategically aimed at bridging these long-standing divisions, or at least appearing to. He's attempting to frame Hindi's promotion as an inclusive endeavor rather than an exclusionary one, emphasizing unity through diversity without undermining the rich tapestry of local languages. It's a delicate and ongoing balancing act in a country where language is not just a tool for communication, but a powerful symbol of cultural heritage, political self-determination, and deep personal identity. This continuous dialogue shapes not just education policies, but the very political map of India.
And linking that idea of language and identity directly into the realm of education itself, we have another significant controversy brewing, this time at Delhi University. It's regarding the revised Master of Arts, MA Political Science syllabus. This has sparked quite a stir, apparently, with the inclusion of terms like jihad, terrorism, and Hindu nationalism. What's the current status of this syllabus? Has it been fully approved, or is it still under review? This sounds contentious.
It is very contentious. The revised MA Political Science syllabus at Delhi University has indeed caused a significant uproar. It's become a focal point in broader debates about academic autonomy and ideological influence in education. Now, while it has gone through the university's internal processes, it was approved by both the Academic Council and the Executive Council. It currently awaits final approval from the Standing Committee on Courses. And crucially, this committee recently sent the syllabus back for revisions, explicitly citing multiple objections received regarding its content.
Sent back, so it's not a done deal.
Not at all. It's in a state of flux, very much under intense scrutiny and subject to further changes.
Okay. Can you break down the specific contentious papers or topics within the syllabus that are causing this widespread controversy? What exactly are the critics pointing to as problematic?
Absolutely. Several specific papers and their thematic inclusions have drawn particular fire from critics. One is an elective paper, DSE 17, titled Politics and Ethnic Conflicts in J&K. That's Jammu and Kashmir. It covers highly sensitive and historically contentious topics such as separatism, insurgency, human rights issues, terrorism, and the ongoing debate surrounding autonomy in Kashmir, inherently controversial ground.
Right.
Then there's DSE 51, Religious Nationalism and Political Violence. This one is designed to explore the politicization of religious identity in multi-religious societies, a theme deeply relevant to India's own diverse fabric, but also very sensitive. DSE 14, Identities and Political Transformation in India, has also been flagged, particularly for its referencing of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the RSS.
The Hindu nationalist organization, parent of the BJP.
Correct. And the syllabus references it through scholarly critiques, which some find problematic depending on the framing. Perhaps most notably, DSE 63, Discourses on Hindu Nationalism, has raised significant eyebrows, particularly because it prominently includes readings like V.D. Savarkar's Essentials of Hindutva.
A foundational text for Hindu nationalism.
Exactly. Its inclusion is seen by critics as potentially legitimizing or normalizing the ideology rather than purely studying it academically. And finally, an international relations paper, DSE 28, Pakistan and the World, also drew criticism, mainly for its specific treatment of concepts like jihad and radicalism within Pakistan's foreign policy framework, with some arguing it presented a potentially biased or one-sided perspective.
So it's a broad range of topics, all highly charged and deeply intertwined with India's current political and social landscape. What's the core criticism from those opposing the syllabus? Are they saying these topics shouldn't be studied at all, or is it about how they're presented? And how does this fit into that larger pattern of curriculum reform under the new education policy we touched on earlier?
The core argument from detractors isn't necessarily that these topics are off-limits for academic study. It's more about how they are framed and presented. They are arguing vehemently that the revised syllabus, as it stands, isn't genuinely designed for impartial academic inquiry or robust critical analysis, but rather that it promotes a very specific ideological narrative, a particular viewpoint. Professor Harendranath Tiwari, who is a member of the standing committee reviewing it, explicitly stated that in his view, the courses as drafted were not academic in nature. He said they overtly served political agendas.
That's a strong accusation from within the committee.
It is. And this is where it gets truly indicative of a broader trend. These syllabus changes align with a larger, ongoing pattern of curriculum reform taking place across India under the new education policy, NEP. And this NEP has faced significant backlash and controversy across various academic disciplines and institutions, not just political science. We've seen prior controversies, for instance, with the removal of subjects like the Israel-Palestine conflict from history courses, and even the controversial removal of discussions on suicide cases linked to dating apps from psychology courses. Critics argued this curtailed academic freedom and avoided difficult topics. So the current outcome for the DU syllabus is that the committee has requested a revised draft by July 1st. This entire situation vividly reflects growing tensions between the principles of academic freedom and scholarly rigor within higher education, and the increasing pressure of ideological influence in curriculum design in India. It raises profound questions about the future of intellectual discourse in the country's universities.
It really does. And this raises a critical question for all of us as listeners. Where exactly is the line between maintaining academic rigor and allowing for ideological influence in curriculum design? It's a difficult, often contentious balance, and Delhi University's struggle is a clear, unfolding example. Now, let's shift from academic controversy to a truly tragic event and the administrative response, or perhaps the concerning lack thereof. The Congress Party has strongly criticized what they've labeled an inexplicable and inexcusable delay in investigating a recent Air India plane crash. Can you give us the full tragic details of this incident first?
Yes, this was a truly horrific and devastating incident for India. It occurred on June 12th in Ahmedabad. A London-bound Air India flight tragically veered off course shortly after takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, and it crashed directly into a medical hostel complex located in Meganinagar, which is a densely populated area.
Into a hostile complex. Oh, my goodness.
Yes. The scale of the tragedy was immense and heartbreaking. It resulted in 270 fatalities. That included 241 passengers and crew members. Incredibly, only one passenger survived the crash.
Just one survivor out of 270.
It speaks to the severity of the impact. The sheer scale and public impact of this disaster have naturally, and quite rightly, heightened demands for both transparency and accountability in the investigative process as the nation grapples with this profound loss.
Understandably so. And what exactly is the Congress Party's core accusation regarding the investigation? What specific demands are they making of the government?
The core accusation from Congress is pointed and, frankly, quite grave. They're highlighting that nearly 2 weeks after this catastrophic incident, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, that's the independent body responsible for civil aircraft accident and incident investigations in India, has yet to appoint a lead investigator for the crash.
2 weeks later, still no lead investigator.
That's the claim. This significant delay, in the Congress Party's view, raises serious concerns about fundamental procedural lapses and a worrying lack of urgency in handling such a major aviation disaster. Congress spokesperson Jairam Ramesh, citing a detailed media report that he shared widely on social media, emphasized the striking absence of any official response or communication from the AAIB regarding the probe's status. He publicly questioned the government's overall commitment to aviation safety, and crucially, urged authorities to immediately clarify the status of the investigation and, critically, to expedite the appointment of qualified personnel to lead the probe. Their demands are not just for a lead investigator, but for clear timelines and a visible commitment to swift, thorough action.
If we zoom out for a moment and connect this to the bigger picture, what does this prolonged delay, if accurate, signify? What does it mean for public trust in government institutions and maybe India's institutional preparedness to handle crises of this magnitude?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Congress Party's reaction clearly underscores a growing political and likely public frustration over what is perceived as a sluggish, almost indifferent administrative response to a national tragedy of this scale. This isn't just about one isolated incident. It potentially has profound and unsettling broader implications. Implications for passenger safety across the board, for the credibility of regulatory bodies like the AAIB, and for India's institutional preparedness to handle large-scale disasters, both in terms of immediate response and long-term accountability. As the nation grapples with the aftermath of one of its worst aviation disasters in recent memory, the unexplained delay in launching a formal probe has inevitably become a major focal point of political scrutiny and deep public concern. And it raises an important question that echoes far beyond this single crash. What does a delayed and seemingly disorganized investigation signal about a nation's response capabilities, about its administrative efficiency, and about its fundamental commitment to rapid, thorough accountability in the face of such devastating and high-profile events? The optics alone, let alone the potential impact on finding the cause, can significantly erode public confidence.
That's a crucial point about national capabilities and the potential erosion of public trust. Very serious indeed. Let's move from what seems like a reactive situation to a more proactive one. Focusing on issues of internal security and regional development, particularly in India's sensitive border regions, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann recently made a detailed, comprehensive set of requests to the Niti Aayog, that's India's premier public policy think tank. His focus was heavily on border security and economic development for his state, Punjab. What were his specific infrastructure needs, given Punjab's unique geographical challenges bordering Pakistan?
Yes, Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann's requests to the Niti Aayog were indeed comprehensive and clearly driven by the acute and unique security challenges faced by a border state like Punjab. He specifically urged the construction of critical civilian infrastructure, things like bunkers and air shelters, needed in all border districts.
For civilian protection.
Precisely. The primary objective here is to ensure civilian protection and minimize casualties during potential cross-border conflicts or shelling. And he cited recent skirmishes with Pakistan as a clear and present justification for this urgency. Beyond basic shelters, he emphasized the critical need for developing alternate routes to border villages. These areas are often cut off during crises. He also pushed for the establishment of modern emergency operations centers and district-level command centers to better coordinate disaster and security responses. And he called for significant communication security upgrades, obviously vital for secure information exchange in sensitive border areas. Mann also highlighted the evolving nature of modern threats, calling specifically for enhanced cyber defense capabilities and vastly improved trauma care facilities in border towns, underscoring the shift in warfare dynamics and the need for better civilian resilience right there on the front line. All these proposed infrastructure upgrades he requested should be guided by the center's Gati Shakti initiative.
The National Connectivity Plan?
Right. It's a national master plan for multimodal connectivity aimed at integrated planning for infrastructure projects across India. So he's trying to tie it into existing central frameworks.
And it sounds like his request didn't stop at just physical infrastructure like bunkers and roads. He also presented detailed proposals for enhancing the border force itself and combating that pervasive and increasingly sophisticated issue of cross-border smuggling, particularly involving drones.
That's absolutely right. He requested the expansion of the Border Wing Home Guard scheme to cover all 2,107 border villages in Punjab. This would significantly bolster local security presence and create a sort of first line of defense and intelligence gathering within communities themselves. Crucially, he coupled this with a passionate plea for a significant and much-needed increase in the daily duty allowance for the Jawans, the soldiers of the Home Guards, from a really meager 45 a day to a more respectable 655.
That's a huge jump, more than tenfold.
It is, and it isn't just about fairness. He argued it's about recognizing their perilous service and ensuring better motivation and coordination with the Border Security Force, the BSF, who are the primary federal border guards. He then pivoted to the significant and growing menace of drug and weapons smuggling carried out via drones. This is a major concern along the border. It destabilizes communities and funds illegal networks. To counter this, he proposed allocating a substantial 2,829 crore specifically for jammers and advanced surveillance technology, noting with concern that a large portion of the Punjab border currently remains uncovered by such countermeasures, creating dangerous blind spots.
What's truly striking here, as you lay it out, is the sheer comprehensive nature of these requests. It's not just about military defense or traditional border guarding. It seems to be about holistic community protection, economic stability, and modern threat mitigation all rolled into one. It speaks to a very integrated understanding of what security actually means in a border state.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. The comprehensive nature of these requests really showcases the multifaceted and deeply intertwined challenges faced by border states like Punjab. It's a powerful reminder that security in these regions isn't merely a military or policing matter. It's deeply intertwined with civilian safety, economic viability, social stability, and effective responsive governance. It's like a blueprint for creating a resilient border ecosystem, not just a fortified line.
And on that economic viability point, he also had significant critiques of existing central government programs aimed at border areas, plus specific targeted requests for industrial development and, critically, water rights, which is a huge, long-standing issue for Punjab, right?
He certainly did. Chief Minister Maan criticized the limited inclusion of Punjab villages in the center's Vibrant Villages program. This program aims to develop border villages and, frankly, deter migration out of these sensitive areas. He pointed out that only 101 out of 1,500 potentially eligible villages within 10 kilometers of the border had been included. He called for its immediate revision to ensure far greater inclusion for Punjab. He then pressed for Punjab to receive economic incentives similar to those provided to other strategically important Himalayan states like Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu and Kashmir, arguing that this was necessary to rejuvenate trade and industry in the state, which has historically suffered due to its proximity to a hostile border. Furthermore, Maan also forcefully reiterated Punjab's historical and, in their view, rightful share in the Indus River waters.
The water dispute, always simmering.
Always. It's a contentious and long-standing dispute with neighboring states. And he renewed urgent calls for the completion of the Yamuna-Sutlej link, YSL Canal, to address the perennial issue of acute water scarcity that deeply impacts Punjab's vital agrarian economy. And finally, to boost industrial growth and create employment, he sought a significant allocation of 2,000 crore for a special economic zone, and the expedited development of industrial corridors under the Paratma project, that National Highway Development Program.
So for you, the listener, what's the real takeaway here from Chief Minister Man's comprehensive set of proposals to the Niti Aayog? What does it signal about the state's priorities and maybe the central government's role?
Well, Chief Minister Mann very deliberately framed all these proposals, everything from the construction of bunkers to the development of industrial corridors, as absolutely essential. Essential for both immediate border stability and the long-term economic revitalization of Punjab. His comprehensive approach powerfully illustrates the deep, indeed inseparable link between security and development in India's critical border regions. It's a clear message that true national security is built not just on military strength, but on robust, resilient communities, thriving economies, and a sense of equity and development for those living right there on the front lines. It also highlights the constant negotiation, the push and pull between state and central governments over resource allocation and policy implementation in India's federal system.
Right. A fascinating look at the state-level perspective. Now, let's broaden our scope again, turning our attention to India's foreign policy and defense posture on the global stage. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh recently issued a firm and unequivocal warning against cross-border terrorism. This was at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO Defense Ministers Summit. The SCO, for those unfamiliar, is a major Eurasian political, economic, and security organization, including China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and others. What was India's core message at this high-profile forum, and who was it implicitly or perhaps explicitly aimed at?
India's core message, delivered firmly by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh at the SCO summit, was a clear and unequivocal warning against cross-border terrorism. And yes, it was implicitly but very pointedly addressing Pakistan, given the context and history. He emphasized India's unwavering zero-tolerance policy on terrorism, asserting the nation's absolute and inherent right to defend itself against external threats by any means necessary. And this wasn't just abstract diplomatic language, it was directly backed by a reference to a specific, brutal incident and India's decisive response to it, clearly designed to demonstrate both India's resolve and its capacity for action.
And what specific incident did Singh reference to drive home India's unwavering point? And how exactly did India respond to it, beyond just diplomatic condemnation? What actions did they take?
Singh specifically referenced the brutal April 27th terror attack in Pahalgam, a popular tourist destination in Jammu and Kashmir. In that attack, 26 innocent civilians, including a Nepali national, were tragically killed. This attack was carried out by the Resistance Front, which is widely known and acknowledged, certainly by India, to be a proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Pakistan-based terrorist organization.
So linking it directly to Pakistan-based groups.
Directly. And in a direct and assertive response to this heinous attack, India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7th. This was described as a series of targeted counterterrorism strikes specifically aimed at dismantling terrorist infrastructure across the line of control, which strongly implies cross-border operations.
Operation Sindoor, okay.
Singh went on to vehemently condemn nations that use terrorism as a state policy and continue to harbor extremists, stating unequivocally that such nations must face global consequences for their actions, a call for international accountability. He also strongly criticized what he termed international double standards in combating terrorism, arguing for a more unified, consistent, and decisive global action against this pervasive threat, regardless of political alliances or expediency.
This raises an important question, one that speaks to India's broader strategic approach. How does India balance these direct, defensive, and sometimes kinetic actions, like Operation Sindoor, with its diplomatic presence and calls for cooperation on global stages like the SCO? It seems like a delicate walk, almost contradictory sometimes.
It is a very deliberate and, I think, increasingly sophisticated balance that India is trying to strike. On one hand, India demonstrates its resolve through direct actions like Operation Sindoor. This clearly shows adversaries that it will protect its sovereignty and citizens from external threats. It sends a strong, unambiguous message. Simultaneously, by actively engaging in multilateral forums like the SCO, even sitting at the same table as Pakistan and China, it seeks to build broader international consensus and pressure on issues like terrorism. It's really a strategy of combining unilateral strength and defensive capability with multilateral diplomacy and collective security efforts, using both sticks and carrots, if you will. A dual approach. Exactly. Rajnath Singh also stressed the importance of countering radicalization, which is often the precursor to violent extremism, and addressing the misuse of emerging technologies, like drones, which are increasingly being employed for cross-border smuggling of drugs and weapons, posing a new kind of asymmetric threat that affects many SCO members. Beyond immediate threats, he reaffirmed India's steadfast commitment to regional stability, particularly in Afghanistan, recognizing its critical impact on the broader South and Central Asian region. He calls for enhanced multilateral cooperation under India's encompassing vision of one Earth, one family, one future, which promotes collective responsibility for global challenges. And he also advocated for practical things like enhanced disaster-resilient infrastructure and stronger defense collaboration among SCO members to tackle emerging global threats effectively, indicating a desire for practical security cooperation beyond just statements.
So, for you, the listener, what's the overall message here from Delhi? What does Singh's address signify in the larger context of India's foreign policy and security posture today?
Singh's address really underscored India's proactive, multi-pronged stance on security. It showed a willingness to act unilaterally when necessary, but also a desire for international partnership. It made clear India's expectations of global accountability, especially from neighbors accused of supporting terror. His remarks highlighted both the immediate, pressing regional security concerns like those emanating from Pakistan and India's broader strategic goals. Goals like fostering resilient cooperative defense frameworks within multilateral platforms like the SKO. It signals a nation that is prepared to defend itself decisively while simultaneously seeking broader international cooperation on shared security challenges, projecting both strength and a commitment to collective solutions. It indicates India's growing confidence, I think, in asserting its security interests forcefully on the global stage.
Okay, projecting strength and seeking cooperation. Now, finally, let's conclude our deep dive today with a look at the intricate interplay of religion and politics in a key southern state. Tamil Nadu, Chief Minister M.K. Stalin recently delivered some sharp criticism of the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, regarding something called a Lord Muruga conference. What exactly were his accusations, and how did he frame this criticism? This sounds like a classic regional versus national party clash.
It definitely has elements of that. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's criticism was direct, pointed, and politically charged. No ambiguity there. He accused the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, of cynically using religion as a political tool. Specifically, he argued, to disrupt what he described as the state's long-standing and cherished religious harmony. Tamil Nadu prides itself on a certain kind of secular tradition. Without naming the Lord Muruga conference event directly, Stalin clearly referred to it as an attempt to create chaos in a land known for religious amity. He vehemently dismissed the BJP's religious fervor as nothing more than theatrical.
Political theater.
Theatrical, okay. Yes. At a public gathering, he issued a very strong declaration, stating that the only thing under threat in this state is the BJP alliance, clearly implying that their political strategy was failing and perhaps even counterproductive. He explicitly warned citizens not to be misled by what he labeled a fake devotion drama.
Fake devotion drama. That's quite the label.
It is, a phrase clearly designed to delegitimize the BJP's actions in the eyes of the Tamil public. His message was clearly designed to distinguish between genuine personal faith and what he perceived as politically motivated religious displays aimed solely at electoral gain.
And what exactly was this Lord Muruga conference? Who organized it, and how does it fit into the BJP's broader, long-term strategic efforts to gain influence in a state like Tamil Nadu, where, let's be honest, they've traditionally struggled to make significant inroads?
Well, the conference in question was organized by the Hindu Munani. This is a prominent Hindu nationalist organization based in Tamil Nadu itself. And it was strongly endorsed by the BJP. It saw significant participation from various key figures, including the actor-politician Pawan Kalyan, who has considerable influence, particularly among certain communities in South India, and also prominent members of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the RSS, the ideological parent organization of the BJP. So high-level backing.
So a concerted effort.
Absolutely. This event is widely viewed by political analysts as a clear strategic effort by the BJP to expand its presence and gain a stronger foothold in Tamil Nadu. Remember, the party currently holds minimal influence in the state's political landscape. It's largely dominated by Dravidian parties rooted in social justice and secular movements. With the 2026 state assembly elections on the horizon, these kinds of events focusing on specific Hindu deities popular in the region, like Lord Muruga, are a clear and calculated attempt by the BJP. An attempt to make inroads into a region that has historically and culturally resisted its brand of what critics call majoritarian, often Hindi-centric politics. They're trying to appeal to specific religious sentiments as a way to perhaps circumvent or bypass the traditional Dravidian political narrative that has held sway for so long.
Right. Trying a different approach. So if we zoom out one last time and connect this to the bigger picture, what does Stalin's very strong stance reflect about the state of politics and identity in Tamil Nadu? And perhaps more broadly, what does it tell us about the ongoing clash between national political narratives, like the BJP's, and strong regional identities across India?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Stalin's remarks clearly reflect a broader, deep-seated resistance in Tamil Nadu to what is perceived as religious politicization by the BJP. It hits a nerve there. His comments are meticulously designed to reinforce and reaffirm the Dravidian model of secularism and social justice. This model has been central to the state's political identity for decades, and is notably distinct from the national narrative often promoted by the BJP, which places more emphasis on Hindu cultural identity. The controversy underscores the ongoing and often tense interplay between national and regional narratives in India, particularly as the BJP seeks to extend its electoral and ideological influence into southern states, where it has traditionally faced very strong, culturally rooted and ideologically opposed resistance. This isn't just a political spat over one conference, it's a clash of fundamental political ideologies and strategies. It illustrates the enduring power of regional identity, linguistic pride, and unique cultural heritage in shaping India's incredibly diverse political landscape. It highlights how local political parties, especially in the South, fiercely guard their unique cultural and political space against perceived incursions from national parties trying to impose a more uniform vision.
Okay, we've really unpacked a lot today. Quite a journey through India's headlines. From the high-stakes global cricket pitch and its intricate power plays, to the fierce domestic battles over electoral roles and fundamental language policy. Then through critical national security concerns, significant educational shifts, and that ongoing political push and pull in culturally distinct states like Tamil Nadu. It's been a whirlwind, hasn't it? But when you connect these headlines, when you look at them not as isolated events but as interconnected threads, they truly paint a vivid, dynamic picture. A picture of India's current challenges, its soaring aspirations, and the complex negotiations defining its future path. We hope this deep dive has offered you, our listener, a shortcut to being not just informed, but deeply informed on the heartbeat of this incredible, complex nation.
Absolutely. And that this really raises an important question for you, the listener, to perhaps carry forward and mull over. Consider how these seemingly disparate headlines, whether it's the ambition of a new cricket league, the bureaucratic controversies over voter registration, the heated debates around national language policy, or the ideological shifts simmering in a university syllabus, how all of them, in their own unique way, reflect the ongoing fundamental negotiation of identity, power, and the future direction in one of the world's largest and most complex democracies. So the final thought for you is this. What stands out to you as the most significant underlying theme across these diverse issues we've discussed today? And how might these daily headlines, often fleeting on their own, collectively shape the bigger unfolding story of India in the crucial years to come? Something to think about.